Hello, hello. Oh, we have more here than I thought. Amazing. Hey, Aaron. Hey, Dan.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going great so far. Skipped my coffee, unfortunately, but plenty of excitement going on with the show opening for viewing.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Skip coffee. That's brave. So exciting though. It's opening day. Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm in a noisy room on a slow internet connection, so if I robot, that's what's going on.
Wow, that is quite the mix for Twitter. You're a brave individual.
I hope your upstairs neighbors are relaxed today.
The upstairs neighbors have gone away on holiday, so I'm making the most of it by recording lots of videos.
Very smart.
Hi, Nicole.
Hello, how are you?
Good, good. How are you? Happy opening day.
I know it's so exciting. And of course, they're doing fire alarm testing in my building again today on this, which is weird because they also did it when we recorded the video last time. So the timing is just fantastic.
It's perfect, you know?
That's hilarious.
I mean, like, are the fire alarms okay? We need to know.
There's like I live in a really old building, so literally there's like a fake fire alarm once a week. So I feel like they test them like once a month, and I don't know why because there's a lot of testing being done just by people not knowing how to cook.
Oh, wow. Well, then those tests are necessary, I guess. Get people aware.
I guess
Um,
so.
Hi, Anna. How are you?
Hi everyone, I'm good. Very excited for today.
Yes, us too. And I'm so happy we have such a bigger crew than I thought. So this is amazing. Please do tweet out about this. I didn't know we'd have so many of you here. This is absolutely wonderful. So we'll go ahead and get started here in just a couple minutes. But yeah, if you don't mind tweeting about the space, letting everyone know that we're here and we're getting started and we can celebrate the opening of N equals 12. Hi, Leah. How's it going?
Hey, yeah, doing well. How are you?
Great. Super excited. And Elsif, hi. How are you?
Hi there, I'm good, thanks. Very excited to be here.
Amazing. Us too. And Bart, did we hear from you? Hi, Bart.
Don't think so, not yet. Hi. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here.
Oh, well, thank you for coming. And thank you all for being here. We are stoked. Seriously, so excited. It's such a big day. In N equals 12, Feral Foul 2.0. There's honestly so much to celebrate. So we are very excited. And I see in the audience, we have Wes, Sarah, Dan. Hi, everyone. Carpe diem. What is up? Thank you all for joining us today. Okie doke. Maybe we can go ahead and get started. Does that sound good? It's about 5 after the hour. Get through some intros and then bounce through.
Sounds good.
Okay, perfect. I think, are we waiting on Melissa? Maybe we should wait just one more minute for Melissa if she's coming. I just remembered.
Yeah, Melissa will be popping in and out. She's got some stuff to attend to. Probably go ahead.
Perfect. All right, sounds good. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. Hello and welcome to the opening celebration of N equals 12, a community-built exhibition of generative art curated by Aaron Penne. Now, N equals 12 represents the 12 artists voted into the exhibition by their peers in the Generative Art Club. And now, in the time that I've spent with the group over the last few weeks, I've really had the distinct pleasure of learning about the genesis and development of this exhibition. And it really has been a tremendous collaboration in creativity, deepening friendships, mental health support, everything. It's just been really, really a joy to be a part of this organizing phase. And if you haven't had a chance to look at the sets yet, I advise you to. The pieces themselves are absolutely phenomenal, and yet there is really something about the exhibition set that brings this whole elevated dimension to the piece. To each piece and to the whole. We were talking about it earlier, and it's kind of hard to describe and was hard to kind of think about and imagine, but seeing them all on the site and in the gallery is just really special. And before we get started, I just want to mention a bit about this new model that we've created at Feral File, because it is different and a bit of a departure from what we've done in the past. And which these artists have brilliantly risen to, really, to present each piece as an individual and then together. So in this next phase of Feral File, we are prioritizing the exhibition set, which means that the set is the asset, and each set is completely unique from the others. So in N equals 12, there are 144 sets, and each piece in every single set is unique. So for example, Elsif's Super Bloom in set number 1 is unique from Super Bloom in number 9 and Super Bloom in set number 134. And each edition of Peter Pasma's Balls to the Walls is different. Every one of Leah Coleman's Emergences is unique, etc. So this means that every collector acquires a completely unique set of artworks. And from what I understand, as Aaron was trying to explain to me earlier, that these sets are emergent, compiled by the PRNG gods, which is a detail way above my pay grade. So I'll let Aaron and the crew get into that if they wish to later. So now that one of the reasons that we're doing this, that we're implementing this new set collecting standard, is for a number of reasons. And one is because the spirit of group collaboration is really a cornerstone of our gallery. So keeping the set together, experiencing the work as a whole, really feeds the curatorial vision and preserves that curatorial depth and clarity that we really want to celebrate through the gallery and through Feral File. So this is part of why we're doing that, and we'll get into that more later. But first, I want to get into this conversation because we are so excited to be here with Aaron and with several of the artists today from N equals 12. So I'd like to start by allowing the artist, by giving the artist an opportunity to introduce themselves. We have today with us Elsif, Bart Simmons, Leah Coleman, Nicole Vela, Catt, and Lucia, and our curator, Aaron Penne. So I'd love to start with Elsif. Elsif, if you want to say a bit about yourself and about Super Bloom. And Super Bloom captures the ephemeral floral beauty of spring on the Pacific coast. Hi, Elsif.
Hi, thank you. So I'm Elsif. I'm a Chinese-Canadian artist. I currently live in San Jose, California. And Super Bloom is about flowers on the Pacific coast. So we had a lot of rain this year, and there were wildflowers popping up everywhere, and it was beautiful. And that's what inspired me for the aesthetics of this piece. And also, I don't know if you look at the exhibition on the website, you'll notice that all my pieces can connect together to form one long continuous landscape. The idea behind that, it's also kind of inspired by the themes of this group show, where we're all connected, and it's like every piece kind of exchange colors with the one next to it, like how we exchange ideas while collaborating to create these artworks. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Next, I'd love to move to Bart. Hi, Bart. Bart's, is it Beetlementon? Seeks order amongst chaos.
Yes. It's build element. It's Dutch. I love to give Dutch hard to pronounce names to all of my work, and I think this one succeeds in that as well. So build element is, I think it translates the best to picture elements or something like that. I'm a generative artist based in the Netherlands, and I've been doing generative art for I think 4 to 5 years. And build element is just my way of trying to create as much chaos as possible while trying to seek order in some of the elements that I put in these outputs. I've had this idea in the back of my mind for quite some time already, to just dump as much patterns and chaos into my code and try to see if I'm able to create consistent output. And I think I was mostly inspired by collages made out of magazines and old punch cards and like early generative art made with like old computers and printers. And I'm very happy that I am able to release this on Profile.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Next, I'd love to introduce Nicole Vela. Nicole Vela's piece, Text Me When You Get Home, explores human connection, what it means to connect with people and have those connections change. Hi, Nicole.
Hello, I'm Nicole Vela. I'm an artist based in Toronto, Ontario. My work is called Text Me When You Get Home. I had a really turbulent year in regards to my interpersonal relationships. Some relationships fell apart, and I've also met some really amazing people in the past year. So I really wanted, I was in that headspace when with this whole group show idea came about. And I wanted to somehow articulate the space that I was in within my artwork. Um, I kind of felt like I was being twisted and pulled in different directions. And I've always had this concept of relationships where you either grow together or you grow apart. So I thought, how could I represent that? So that's why we have these two kind of entities on the screen. And are they coming together or are they leaving each other? You don't really know. That's left up to the viewer to decide that. So yeah, that's my art.
Thank you so much. Next, Leah Coleman. Leah Coleman's emergence uses a neural network to expand upon their musings on time, the collective, and remembrance as it relates to their Chinese American heritage. Hi, Leah.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Leah. Yeah, I'm a Chinese American artist and also AI researcher. I'm currently at Carnegie Mellon here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Yeah, and like my series Emergence, it's like really about this multi-year exploration of like my ancestry and my heritage. I've been working with this data set of Chinese paper cuts that I collected and been making different incarnations of it. And in this particular series, in Emergence, basically I've like trained a Stallion model on this data set of paper cuts. It's kind of like an active archival of, I don't know, it feels kind of like me as like a second generation Chinese American, like going back, trying to like collect what pieces I can like gather of generations past of like art that was created before me by other people, by my ancestors, and then redigesting it into something collective that I can create today. So each of the pieces comes from a different point during the training process. I trained this for, I think, like 4 days on 4 NVIDIA GPUs, and each of the pieces comes from a different point in time. And so in that way, the entire series is like a whole family tree or a whole lineage or ancestry, and all the pieces are related and part of like the same like family. Yeah. And so overall, like it has this spirit of, the spirit of like collectivity, and everything was kind of like biological and sort of like everything evolved and emerged together, which also like ties back to the theme of this exhibition, the idea of the collective and the collaboration and riffing off of each other. That was really rewarding in this process.
Thank you. It really is amazing how much each piece really grapples with connection and really this whole system of connection and the system of community that we're in. So thank you so much for giving us a bit about that, about Emergence. Next, I'd love to move on to Daniel Catt. So Daniel Catt's animated work, 256 Kill Screen, poses the question, what if the World Wide Web was never invented and computer bulletin board systems were the dominant interface of the internet? Tell us more, Dan. Hi.
Hi, I'm Dan Catt. I'm a contemporary print artist based here in the UK who happens to dabble in digital art now and again. And my work is sort of a thread between when I was growing up as a kid with an old BBC microcomputer. It was all 8-bit and very few colours and big chunky pixels. And my first year being at university when everything was about dial-up and BBSs and telnetting into places. and how that switched around in the third year when Netscape Navigator and the first World Wide Web pages started coming out, and then the internet took off that way. And I was thinking, well, there's all this beautiful ASCII art and all this text communication that linked everybody together. What would happen in an alternate world where the terminals and the text-based communication just got better and better, and then we had art, and generative art was based on a text terminal instead of images and things on a web page. And that's kind of what drove this artwork and made it animated. And what I really enjoyed about working together in a group is, please excuse the alarm in the background. I'm just going to mute myself a second. Oh man, they're going to get your fire. It is, yeah, in the group way, it was making those connections and allowing me to try to do something different that I really want to do for a long time, but is very different to the artwork that I normally do. So being able to have a chance with Feral File to do that was something that I really enjoyed.
Thank you so much. And honestly, this exhibition is really setting the bar high for this next phase. Just not only the caliber of the artwork, but really the way that you've all worked together is really something to admire, and I can't wait to learn more about it. But before we do, I'd love to speak with Ana Lucia. Ana Lucia's animated work, Oscillation 2, continues the research of using varying wavelengths to drive periodic visual elements, allowing the composition to move in and out of phase over time. Hi, Ana Lucia.
Hi, how are you? Happy to be here. My name is Ana Lucia. I'm an artist originally from the Netherlands, currently living in Cairo, Egypt, and I'm mostly known for drawing a lot of inspiration from textile work and taking those systems from textile works and textile art and bringing those into the digital space and kind of playing with the interplay between these two crafts. And I think working in this group and the collaboration aspect that was part of working towards this final exhibition really allowed me to kind of not necessarily step out of my comfort zone, but to push from a place where I feel comfortable and I feel very much in control, but push that space further out and expand that. So the work that Oscillation 2 that is on the exhibition today really plays with a lot of things that I've been working with before, the kind of patchwork patterns, but also an idea that I like to come back to is these very kind of slow-moving, calming, oscillating, non-looping oscillations, and they kind of like sometimes disintegrate and come back again. And it's really about just kind of playing with, you are looking at it, you're hoping that something happens, but maybe something doesn't happen. And a sentence that was going on in my head, like while I was working on this, is if something is boring after 2 minutes, try it for 4, and if it's boring after 4, try it for 8, etc. So I hope that resonates in the work.
I'm gonna have to think about that one for a minute. Thank you so much. And we are so happy to be joined by Peter Pasma. Peter Pasma's Balls to the Walls is an example of the artist's unique ability to create worlds with advanced techniques. Using swirls to create illusory color, Pasma combines simple primitive forms to suggest a deeper story. So great to have you here, Peter. How are you?
Hi there. Yeah, I'm okay. I'm in Valencia right now, actually, because I got invited to NFT show Europe. But I just was able to tune in. Yeah, so I'm very happy to present Balls to the Walls to the N=12 exhibition. And yeah,
Wonderful. Well,
yeah.
No, I was just gonna say wonderful. Thank you so much for making time. I know that it's quite busy over there right now in Valencia. So thank you for popping on. Really appreciate it. I guess, shall we turn to Aaron to get the conversation started? I would love to hear a bit about kind of where the same n equals 12 came from and how this whole project started. Thank you all so much for being here. Aaron, I'll pass it to you.
Sure, thank you. N equals 12, the name in particular comes from the idea that these 12 artists are a sampling of the larger networked community of artists in this modern digital age. When we think of creating artwork, it's a very personal, intimate thing. It's often done in isolation. But the reality, especially for folks like the artists here that use the computer as the tool for creation, that's also a tool for connection. So while you're up at 2 in the morning working on your code on your computer, you're also so close to just an infinite number of connections. And out there in that large world, there's also a community of artists, maybe other folks doing exactly what you're doing, resonating in the same kind of wavelength. And so this show is focusing on that sort of an experiment on taking the people that have this very specific sort of code-based generative approach to creating systems that create artworks, putting them together in close proximity for a period of several months, asking them to share their code and share their works in progress, share their thoughts and feelings about what they're doing, what other people are doing, what they can improve, what they can change, and just seeing what comes out of it. And I think n equals 12 is basically saying that this is just a one sample. This kind of place of trust and vulnerability can happen at any scale. This is just one example of this group doing it. I'm very obviously fortunate to work with so many wonderful people. These artists have grown very close to each other, close to me. It's been just an amazing experience in doing this kind of experiment, working so closely with so many other artists over such a long period of time, and then having the artwork that comes out of it now be visible and be so distinct from each other is very exciting. But then seeing them in sets, they sort of speak to each other in new ways. I'm thrilled.
Absolutely. They really do create this incredible tapestry of works. And I'm so excited to jump into the conversation. Where did you want to start? Should we maybe, I would love to know what excited you about this exhibition and what made you all want to be part of it.
Yeah, I'll pick that up right at the start. I think for me, it's the difference between sometimes you get invited to a group show and you get given a title or a subject, and then everyone works on their own and then submits the work right at the end. But with this one, it was all about the group right at the start. As Anne was saying, we've all been in a Discord channel group for like the past several months, and then checking in on a weekly basis as well, where we get to talk to each other. And in the NFT market at the moment, it's not just supporting each other on the code front, but there's also this emotional support as well, because it's kind of been a bit of a roller coaster the past 7 months. So knowing that you have this touchstone once every week where you can drop in and then talk to people, and not only from asking questions about their experience, but just getting sort of a sanity check on something. Like in my work, I actually went down several dead ends first, and very quickly killed off earlier projects to jump onto this final one. And I think that, again, is because of the group dynamics. But yeah, it was being invited into not a group show, but an actual group that then happened to have a show at the end of it that really appealed to me.
Yeah, I guess I should talk about the formation of the show. Since Dan, you definitely were one of the initial artists who was very excited about working in this group environment, and I am so happy you did. The work you created in particular, I would consider very different from the work I'm familiar with from you, with the more print making focused or plotter focused, blocks of color or thin lines as you described. This animated work is so exciting, more glitch art, more video game deconstruction, very, very exciting. But anyways, the origin, I guess I was going to say, of the show is from a community that exists called the Generative Artist Club, something that was created back in 2018 or so. I was having multiple conversations across social media and email, whatever else, with artists who were doing the same kind of work that I was doing, and felt it would be beneficial to folks if we all got together in a room and talked. So there was maybe 50 artists or so at the beginning of that several years ago, and now there's 500 or so. This isn't a new thing by any means. These salons, groups of artists, communities, forums, channels, whatever, they go back as far as art goes back. So this is nothing new. I think just doing this kind of thing in a digital native environment where the space that we're working in is so fast moving and there's so much conversation and so much communication, carving out a sort of harbor for this slower pace, more focused, more creative focused work and conversation is really important. And I think that mental health aspect of it that you touched on, Dan, is really key. Giving artists a place to discuss with each other some of their work, some of their struggles, some of the issues they're having with different projects or the market or their own battles with their process. Giving a safe space for that is really important, I feel like. And so that's what this show is about, doing that in a microcosm, sort of seeing if it works with 12 artists, and maybe if it does, then it's something that others can use as a potential model. And so far, I feel like it's been a reasonable success. Everyone still gets along and still talks and still likes to share their artwork. So that's very good.
Something that struck me in the video sessions that we had, which there are video clips with all of the artists, so please do check them out. They're on our YouTube, and I believe we'll be sharing them throughout the week. But was, in my mind, code is always something that you kind of do in isolation, and everyone's kind of touched on this, I think, a little bit to some extent, but code is done in isolation. And so really kind of bringing that out and letting people see your work and really kind of experience it and showing it to people before you're ready, kind of this notion of release. I believe that might have been something that Nicole, is that something that you were talking about before? I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, kind of showing your work maybe before you think it's ready, but better to show it and to get feedback on it than to hold on to it for too long.
Yeah, so something I always struggled with as an artist is just showing your work point blank. It opens yourself up to a lot of vulnerability, even if it's unfinished or if it's finished, regardless. But something I learned in this process of working with 11 other amazing artists is I shouldn't necessarily be reluctant to share my work early, because it really opened myself up and opened up my artwork to new possibilities that I wouldn't have been able to even think of on my own. I was, like Daniel mentioned, he went down a couple dead ends, although they were amazing artworks in them themselves. I also went down a couple different paths, and I didn't know which path to go down. And it wasn't until I opened myself up to that vulnerability of showing half-finished artworks to other artists and get critiques and get guidance from other artists that I was able to choose the path that I did go down, and with the result that I'm very happy with. And yeah, if it wasn't for the group setting, and if it wasn't for, like Dan said, meeting every week and constantly showing our artworks and getting feedback, then I don't think my artwork would have been half as good as it is now.
That really resonates. It's funny, this is not related to art necessarily, but one of my colleagues said recently, a bad idea on a Monday is better than a good idea on a Friday. And so I feel like it just helps if you, not that anyone has bad ideas, but just, I don't know, it helps to get things out sooner and to really just, be comfortable with your own expression and to know that you're in a safe space, which really what sounds like a lot of what was created here was this sort of safe space of collaboration and creation.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned bad ideas, because you always hear that cliche that there's no such thing as a bad idea, and I always thought of it as a cliche, and I thought, actually that's wrong. There are bad ideas, but when it comes to art, I don't think there are bad ideas, and that's something I also learned in this process. Just putting work up that I thought, for lack of better terms, sucked, and my end artwork I actually thought sucked halfway through. It was incomplete, and I showed it to the group, and it was A couple people, I think Dan and Peter, said, no, you should really explore this idea because it's really interesting, it's exciting. And I did. So it was actually my final artwork started out as a bad idea. So when it comes to art, I don't know if there are any bad ideas, and I'm really thankful for this group and this safe space that we had to share my quote bad ideas. I'm not going to call anyone else's artwork bad ideas.
That you mentioned like the specific influence of other folks. One of the things that I really liked observing was like the very specific influence, sometimes direct influence from each other, but also maybe some of the more implicit influence from each other. The implicit part I think is maybe more interesting, but the direct is maybe more easy to talk about. Bart Seaman shared an example, it looks like he dropped, but he had a good example of sharing some work, and he wanted to do something a little different with it and put some depth to it. And Nadieh Bremer shared an idea to put some shadows in a certain technique. And when Bart implemented it, he had some bugs in the implementation and then shared it and said, oh, this is not doing what I want, it's garbage. But then Melissa immediately replied and saying, no, this is actually awesome and you should explore this sort of train of thought. And so Bart did and deepened it and developed it, and now it's like a primary feature of the artwork. So getting that sort of explicit direct impact, direct influence from the other artists, I think is very fun and interesting. But one of the other things I think I noticed in maybe Elsif or Leah's work is maybe the more subtle influence. It's not so direct, like here's the piece that some other artists shared, maybe Elsif with yours, Super Bloom, showing or having each artwork be a piece of a larger continuous artwork where token 0 and next to token 1, next to token 2 all create one larger piece. I think is really fascinating as sort of example of the concept of the show n equals 12, where you as a group of artists are a sampling of this larger world of creativity, where your artwork has these pieces that are part of a larger artwork. Can you share some more about what led you to that idea and maybe some of the processes you took along that path?
Sure. So I guess at the very beginning, I wanted to explore this idea of connectedness. And once I learned that Ferrofile provides the addition number to your generative algorithm, I realized that, oh, I could use that to index into this noise field to make all my pieces connected. So basically, like instead of using a completely random number generator, by using this continuous noise function, I can make the artworks connect to each other in a lot of different dimensions. And so one thing that this group really influenced me was like seeing that it's okay to change course and pivot what you're doing. So originally I started creating these mountainscapes, right? And then kind of halfway through, I was getting a little bit stuck. And but like Nicole said, like I've already showed the work early, I got feedback on it, and I wasn't sure where to go from there. And seeing Anna Lucia and Daniel and Nicole and others kind of change direction and create completely new pieces from what they originally started with really gave me the courage to also explore more things. And this is how the artwork ended up being where it is today.
Beautiful. Melissa, thanks for joining us. And I know you had maybe not similar, but maybe parallel path to ippsketch, I++sketch, around creating something that was pretty, I want to say busy or like very maximalist as far as texture and composition goes. And then over the course of the several months, sort of stripping it down and reducing it to its like purest essence. Tell us about what drove you there.
Yeah, so in the beginning, I was really kind of excited to try out this majorly complicated idea, which I still love, but it was just so much. It was, I don't know how to describe it, but it just didn't look good. I mean, in what I had made so far. And I had personal things going on that just, my brain felt like it was just too much. I couldn't handle all this. And then I don't know. I might have been able to pull it off if I had really, really pushed, but I really started feeling kind of like I wanted minimalism, but I never do anything minimalistic. I always just like add more and more and more texture, more this, more that, more color, always more color. But yeah, it was seeing ippsketch Jeff when he kind of pulled back and turned his more minimalistic. I was like, oh, that's a thing. People do that. Like, never would have occurred to me actually. And when I tried it, I started pulling things out, and I was like, whoa, that actually feels really good. I kept pulling this out and that out. I pulled my textures off that I always use, and I pulled the water out, and I pulled gosh, what else? Oh, I had like these rays coming in on top of everything. So many things in there, and I just pulled everything out. I actually, at one point, I even pulled the blobs out. It was just like a gradient in the background, and I was just like, ooh, now it feels good. But it was just a little too simple. So I put back in the blobs, and I was like, okay, this feels like a really good kind of point. And then honestly, I'm still struggling with it. Like, I really do like my collection. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like, is this too simple? I don't know if I can do this, but I'm pushing through with it. I like it. I feel good about it. It's just so difficult for me to do things minimal, but I'm inspired by ippsketch in that way.
I love the classic, now that the artwork is done, time to doubt everything about it.
Yeah, it's kind of fun because we're watching you post in the Discord, and then Melissa posted these really gorgeous just gradients with a bright sun in it, and I immediately fell in love with them. And I agreed that they're too simple to be a collection of 144, but there's just something really beautiful about this strip back. And Melissa does gradients in a way that I don't quite understand how you get them to look so beautiful, and I certainly can't get them. Like, Melissa's the queen of gradients, but then you brought some stuff back in, but they were really stunning when they popped up, and I had to stop and comment on them. But yeah, so it's just great.
I'd love to stick with Melissa for just a moment. Melissa, we were talking earlier about how the sets just give a different effect, and kind of how maybe the idea of the sets, didn't really stick, didn't really get it until you saw them all together. And I think probably a lot of people, a lot of collectors or artists or people in the community are kind of having the same sort of wonder, like why this set thing. So I guess just from an aesthetic perspective, or from your experience today, how did your opinion change, and sort of, can you walk us through maybe what you thought before and now what you think now that you've seen the sets kind of in their entirety and on the site?
Yeah, so I mean, I hadn't seen them as sets before. I had seen, like, it felt like we have 12 different algorithms as part of the same exhibition, which we do, but I don't know. Then we heard that they were going to be sold as sets, and I'm like, well, that's kind of odd. Like, and they can't be separated. People can't choose, oh, I want number 10 of Melissa's and number 50 of Nicole's. Like, they're just going to be set in these sets. I was like, that's weird. But then I think it was just yesterday, the day before, I saw what the sets are like together. And it was like this whole new realization in my mind. I'm like, whoa, it feels like this, almost like a kind of meta generative collection, the way they come together. Like, you know, within an algorithm, you'd have some set of random traits coming together to form the piece. But here you have all the different algorithms coming together to form a set. And it's so weird how they interact. Like, if you scroll down through them, I can't remember exactly which one, but I think, I'm not going to name any numbers, actually. That'll probably affect things. But there's these certain numbers of sets where I was like, oh, that's really interesting. In this particular set here, maybe Nicole's and mine and Peter's, they all match with like the same colors. And then maybe, I don't know, Reva's and Anna's, they go together or something. And then in this other set, it feels like these three, they all match. And I don't know, it's just really interesting. It feels like the pieces like are interacting with each other in a different way than they would have. Being like that.
I love how you highlighted sort of like the sub groupings that resonate. I noticed the same too, of course, when looking through this. It's like, oh, these fours look amazing together. These three over here, these six over here. During our conversations and during all the constant chat and Discord and the meetings and calls and critiques and everything that we did as a group. It was interesting to see like subgroups form, but not necessarily like in a click way, more like constantly shifting subgroups, and probably because of time zones, I suppose. When some of us are sleeping, the others are awake, and maybe even different techniques. Some of y'all are working in shaders and GLSL, while others are working in JavaScript, and so different approaches. But it was kind of fun seeing the little subgroups form and then ebb and flow and shift constantly. I wonder if any of y'all experienced like being able to hop in and out of a different conversation and get any benefit from that.
Yeah, I think in terms of talking about different techniques like GLSL or like JavaScript, yeah, I think one really valuable thing that I really treasure about this N equals 12 and like this group of like 12 artists that we've formed over the past 7 months is yeah, the fact that we all come from like kind of different backgrounds and have different expertises. And yeah, like for example, I asked Dan a lot of plotter questions because I've been wanting to like finally make use of my Axie draw that's been sitting. And yeah, I think like me working with plotters like didn't come out in this exhibition or this particular series, but it definitely feels like the seeds have been planted now that we've developed like this community where we can ask each other things. So yeah, Dan gave me a lot of feedback on like what types of pens to buy, or like I wanted to start plotting things in an animated way, like the same way that a lot of my pieces end up being animated, and having the plotter sort of become like a performance. And so I think there are interesting like ways that cross-pollination occurs like across different techniques and mediums, and it's just like really cool that we're all here together with like all these different skill sets like riffing off of each other.
Yeah, I'm especially thankful for Peter Pasma's contributions to the group. Like, I don't know how many of us are using his pseudo random number generator. It might be all of us. It might not be. I'm certainly using it. I've used it in other projects. He's been a treasure trove of knowledge, and just being able to riff specifically about GLSL and shader techniques has been really great. I picked up some like sRGB to linear color conversion techniques from Peter that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten if it weren't for this group. And it like really punches up the color in my final artwork. And that's something I'm going to be able to take forward in everything else that I produce in all my other projects. And I know there's other small conversations that I've had in our Discord. We each have our own channel. So you can kind of post to your own channel. You can kind of talk to yourself, and anyone can kind of jump in there and talk back to you. And I know there's been tons of little conversations that have happened throughout those channels, and it's been absolutely amazing to have 11 other people just to quickly bounce ideas back and forth with. Like Aaron said, everyone being in a different time zone was really conducive to that, because no matter what time it was, it could be 1 in the morning or it could be 1 in the afternoon. There's probably someone awake who's on Discord at that time. So you could usually get an answer relatively quickly. It's been great. And I know I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. I hope that Discord stays as like a nice little private, safe space for the 12 of us to kind of bounce ideas off each other. I hope it doesn't go away. I think Melissa runs the server, so.
Everybody stay being nice to Melissa then. The one thing you said just now, Nicole, about like the different time zones and getting help at different hours of the night made me think a lot of the times when running a generative algorithm when you're developing is you let it run overnight and have it output 1,000 images or something and come back the next morning and cull through it and find what you like and what helps. I think that you could probably do the same thing with this group, throw a question out, go to bed, wake up to a couple different answers, and see where you can go from there.
Yeah, exactly. Like one thing I really appreciated was the async nature of some of our collaboration. Basically having this Discord and one channel per artist where it's always exciting to just get up the next day and then browse through the channels to see what new works are there, what are the questions that I can help with, and if I've gotten answers or feedback on my works that I put out there.
Yeah, so Leah, the fact that you brought in this influence of your family and ancestors, I think is just so fascinating. It made me think about like we're talking a lot about the influence between artists, like in this moment, you know, these couple months, but also thinking about the influence over time, I suppose. The main quote that I'm probably obsessed with at this point, but that the theme of the show kind of riffs on is from Frieder Nake about, he says, when artists are young, I'm paraphrasing, but when artists are young, they think that what they're doing, you know, is theirs alone. Nobody else had done it before. But growing older, they discovered that what they had done so far was part and parcel of wonderfully silent conversations they'd been engaged in without knowing. Nobody ever told them so. It just was something that happened, so it seemed. And so this show is basically taking that idea of these conversations over time that were just something that happened, and we are focusing it and making it intentional and saying, okay, in this, you know, these couple months, you're going to discuss your work and your process and see what emerges from it. Basically making these silent conversations that Frieder talks about, making them audible and direct. But Leah, you kind of pulled it back to this external influence idea, you know, bringing in this sort of time element and bringing in the family and these, you know, very personal influences. I would love to hear more about that if you care to share.
Yeah, I think like yeah, in one of our earlier calls, like, we were talking about or like questioning like for each of us as artists in this exhibition, like how much of the artwork feels like our own versus like a collaboration with the others. And in general, I feel like everything we do, like as humans, is part of the collective, both in terms of like the people that are like around you, surrounding you, like directly influencing you, like maybe like the 12 artists in this group, but then also like our contemporaries, like random media that we see, inspiration just that's everywhere across mediums. Like maybe you hear a song that really like moves you, and so that inspires you to like create a work of visual art. But then also there's like you were saying, like the silent conversations between artists that I think like span generations, they span time and space, um, and how like yeah, it's just really cool seeing like the entire like a lineage of like all of art and all of ideas like kind of churning out or like riffing off of each other to produce new things. And I feel like, yeah, that's kind of like the whole philosophy behind my piece, and also like my explorations related to like who I am and how I got here to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and the whole like family tree of history, and how a lot of it is completely unknown to me, and a lot of it is lost. Um, and a lot of it is kind of like information that is just kind of unknown and unrecoverable. But it kind of like makes me feel warm inside to like know that it was there, and it like has supported me, and it has come out in like who I am today in the present day, and like the artwork that I'm creating, but also like in who I am. Um, yeah, and so like everything is sort of interrelated and interconnected, very much with like the theme of n equals 12.
That's incredibly powerful. As you were talking, I was thinking how that speaks to the level of access nowadays, I suppose. Before the internet and all the information at our fingertips like we have now, if you wanted to do some research to stumble upon an artist from 100 years ago who's doing similar things to what you're doing now, that would be a very tall order. You'd have to go to libraries and schooling and all those other things, do a bunch of research. Now you can just Google it and find folks who resonate. But what you said about family, you can't just Google your own family members, of course. The only way to experience that sometimes is through your own expression or your own sort of intuition around it. And being able to pull that in and have it come through your artwork is very, very powerful. Thank you for sharing that with us.
So I have a question. the success and the spirit of this exhibition, I think, is due obviously in large part to the immense dedication and skill of all the artists in the show. And I think that a lot of that dedication and motivation, I would imagine, has to do a lot with the leadership shown by Aaron. And Aaron, I wonder, what are some of your takeaways as curator of this exhibition, coordinating so many schedules and time zones that as we've talked about, and so many priorities and energies? Curious what your takeaways are from this.
Tough question. I think my right off the bat is that curating, writing, researching, doing all of the effort required to showcase these artists and their work and be a voice for the exhibition is a heck of a lot more work than I ever expected. So I am so much more humbly grateful to all the curators and folks who research artwork and put effort into furthering what we do beyond making artwork. It's just there's so much more effort there than I could have ever anticipated, and it's been a wonderful experience learning that and going through it. I think a big part of what I've learned is how important it is to work with people who have, I guess, the same, like there's a level of like trust or comfort, I suppose, between all of the people in this group, not because everyone's super nice or friendly or whatever it is. It's just because we're all driven by maybe similar passions. And I think that comes through really well. And so finding folks that have similar passions or overlap in the strange niche curiosities that you have is really, really empowering as an individual, and therefore as your contribution to a larger group. Like I said, everything's interconnected. So to me, it just sort of confirmed or reaffirmed that idea. Yeah, I have a lot of thoughts about what it means to work in a group like this. And I think really the best way to see it is to come to the exhibition, go to Ferrofile, view the different sets, let the artwork kind of speak for itself. And then after you get some aesthetic experiences, then you can go into the curatorial statement and read about it and get some more of the ideas that we were trying to put through.
Amazing. Well, everyone, you have your orders. And yes, please do go. please do go check out the exhibition. Every single set. Honestly, I was scrolling through earlier, and just everyone is so stunning in and of itself. And kind of what was said earlier about how some of these go together and some of those go together, and it's so interesting to experience them as a whole. So I do want to leave just a couple minutes for any questions from the group, or if anyone in the audience wants to come up and ask a question. Before we close out the opening, while people are maybe thinking of questions or trying to raise their hands, I will say that we're going to have an exhibition walkthrough next Wednesday on the 19th at the same time as this space started today. So wherever you are, the same time next week on Wednesday, and we're going to do that on Zoom. And so there's an Eventbrite link that we're going to drop today on Twitter, and it went out in the newsletter this morning as well. So if you do receive our newsletter, the link is there. So please do sign up, and we're going to go through the exhibition, get a bit more in depth about the pieces, and look at the sets as a whole. Zoom is just obviously such a better medium for the visual presentation. So we're really looking forward to that next week. And then collecting is next Thursday. So I know that there's, like we said, this is quite a different model. So the show is open for the next week for everyone to really go and immerse themselves in the sets, pick out your favorites. And then on Thursday, it's 24 hours of collecting. And that's going to be a falling auction model, which we can get more into later. We're going to tweet about it a ton, put a bunch on our Instagram and on our website as well. And it's all detailed on our website, which is brand new. Shout out to the team who's been working so hard on this brand new Ferrofile 2.0. It's really, really phenomenal. So yeah, big kudos to our engineering team. So with that, I just want to pause for a moment and see if anyone has any questions or last thoughts before we close out the space. No, is everyone just scrolling the website, finding their favorite sets and their favorite pieces? Well, Aaron, what do you think? Do you have any last questions for anyone?
Nope, I feel good. I will say there's a YouTube playlist where Feral recorded all of us talking a couple of times and parsed it into little chunks of each artist talking about their process and work. Highly recommend going through that. Other than that, I would encourage everybody to explore the artwork and think about the process that went on behind it. I feel like the artwork obfuscates a lot of the magical alchemy that happens in a group show like this, where folks are interacting together. So a good way to get the context for the rest of the show is to watch the videos, read the curatorial statement, absorb as much information, I suppose, as you can in parallel to viewing the artwork. Really grateful and appreciate everybody, especially the artists, spending the time. We spent many weekends, many nights over the course of several months talking and working and sharing, and their openness to trying this experiment has been incredibly fulfilling, and the outcome is amazing. Thank you all.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you.
Amazing. Well, truly, thank you all so much. This exhibition is so special, and we are so thrilled that it's the inaugural of this next phase of Feral File. Truly, we are so privileged. So thank you all for being here. Thank you, Melissa, Dan, Nicole, Leah, Elsif, and then Anna and Bart, everyone who had to drop off, and Peter, you know, so glad that they just popped in for a moment. We're really blessed. And Aaron, of course, thank you so much for being here, for your leadership, for you know, bringing this all together and making this happen. So thank you all so much. We really appreciate your time. Please do go check out the exhibition in full. All 144 sets are there for you to view from now until forever. So please do go check them out. And then the collecting is next Thursday. We have the walkthrough on Wednesday, and we look forward to chatting with you between now and then. So thank you all so much, and congratulations to N=12.
It's very exciting. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. Ciao.